Hello, grade 10. This is Miss Brianna, your English teacher from Knowledge Private School. Welcome to this lesson. So today we will be doing something a little bit different. Turn to page 16 and 17 in your student book. This is your literary reader for this year. It is the story Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. This is episode 1. Today we will read episode 1 and discuss some new words. Episode 1, The Journey Begins. So if we look at the title, Around the World in 80 Days, what do you think it means? It probably has something to do with travel, right? And if it takes 80 days, it's probably travel by train or ship or car. Nowadays, we can travel around the world in like 2 days because we have airplanes. But this book is about a time before they had airplanes. So it will talk about trains, ships, cars, and maybe other forms of transportation. So we know the story is going to be about travel. Now, the two main characters are Phileas Fogg and Passepartout. Phileas Fogg and Passepartout. Phileas is a rich man. Passepartout is his servant or assistant. So let's read episode 1 and then we will discuss the new words. Just listen. Episode 1, The Journey Begins. Mr. Phileas Fogg was tall, good-looking, and about 40 years old. He owned a large house in an expensive part of London. His life was simple and quiet, and he did the same things at the same times each day. He always got up at exactly 8 a.m., had breakfast at 8:25, and washed at 9:35 each morning. Mr. Fogg lived alone and needed a servant to look after him. He never had visitors, but on the morning of Wednesday, 2nd of October, 1872, he was waiting for a new servant to come to the house. There was a knock at the door, and a strong young man of about 30 years of age came in. "I understand that your name is Passepartout. Where are you from?" asked Phileas Fogg. "Yes, my name is Jean Passepartout, and I am from France. I am honest, and I have had several different jobs. I used to be an acrobat in the circus, and after that, I was a firefighter in Paris. Now, I hope to live a quieter life in England," said the Frenchman. "I hear that you work hard, Mr. Passepartout. I am happy for you to be my new servant. You can start today." Phileas Fogg picked up his coat and hat, and he left the house at exactly 11:30. He walked to the Reform Club. Let's discuss what is happening. So Mr. Phileas Fogg is around 40. He has no family. He is simple and quiet, and he does the same things at the same time every day. What time does he get up? It says at 8 a.m. Exactly 8 a.m. What time does he have breakfast? Exactly 8:25. And what time does he wash? Exactly 9:35. Now, he needs a servant. A servant is somebody who can do your work, like wash your clothes, make food, clean your house. So Phileas Fogg needs a servant. So on 2nd October 1872, a new servant comes. He is a man named Jean Passepartout. Where is he from? France. He says, "I am honest." This means he tells the truth. He does not lie. What were his jobs before this? He was an acrobat and a firefighter. So he had very exciting jobs before this. But what is his hope now? He wants to live a quieter life in England. So Phileas Fogg says, okay, you can be my servant. And then he leaves and he goes to the Reform Club. The Reform Club is like a club or a restaurant for men. Let's continue reading on page 17. He did not work, and he went to the club almost every day. There, he always read newspapers and played cards with other rich men. Later that day, he met 5 friends there, and they started playing a game of cards. "Have you heard the news?" said Stuart, one of the men. "Someone has taken £55,000 from the Bank of England. They think it was a well-dressed man who was seen in the bank. The police have sent detectives all over the world, but I don't think they will ever find the robber. The world is just too big." "The world has grown smaller than you think. With fast ships and new railways, you could now travel round the world in only 80 days, said Phileas Fogg. "That's not possible," replied Stuart. "No one can do it in 80 days. "I believe that I can do it. If I can't, I will give you £20,000, said Mr. Fogg in a quiet voice. The 5 men talked about Mr. Fogg's idea, and finally they said, "We agree." "Good. There's a train that leaves London at 8:45 this evening. I will leave today, and will return to London, to this same room, before 8:45 p.m. on Saturday, 21st of December, or I will give you £20,000, said Phileas Fogg quietly. Mr. Fogg finished the game of cards and walked home. He put £20,000 into a large bag, and he gave it to his new servant. "Passepartout, put some of our clothes into this bag. I am travelling round the world, and I want you to come with me," he said. "Round the world?" said Passepartout, surprised. "Yes, in 80 days, and we leave this evening at 8:45. Passepartout finished packing the bag, and they took a taxi to Charing Cross train station in central London. Phileas Fogg bought 2 tickets to Paris. Then he said good-bye to his 5 friends who were waiting at the station. Mr. Fogg and Passepartout climbed into the train. 5 minutes later, Phileas Fogg's long journey started as the train moved slowly away from the station. Wow, so Mr. Phileas Fogg has led a quiet life, but now his life will be very different. So, in the beginning here, they read in the newspaper about a man who took a lot of money from the bank. Here it says, £55,000. This is the money they use in England, but this is a lot of money. And they sent detectives all around the world to find the robber. A robber is someone who takes things. So as they're talking about the world, Phileas says, "No, the world is smaller than you think. I could travel around it in only 80 days." Now, he has 5 friends, and they say, "No, no, no, you can't, impossible." But he says, "I believe that I can do it." So he agrees. He will go around the world in 80 days. If he fails, he will give them £20,000. That's a lot of money. So they agree. So he goes home and he packs his bags, he gets some money, and he leaves. So first, they go to the train station and they buy 2 tickets to Paris, and they say goodbye. So this book will be about his journey to go around the world. Here's some of the words from the story. This says acrobat. An acrobat is someone who can do crazy tricks in the air. They can flip, they can walk on wire, they can swing very high up. So remember, the new servant, Jean Passepartout was an acrobat. He also was a firefighter. A firefighter fights fires. Now, in the club, the Reform Club, the man likes to read newspapers. So these are newspapers. He also likes to play cards. These are cards. So he reads newspapers and he plays cards. Now, as he is talking about the robber, they say the police send detectives. This is a detective, and this is a police. So the police and the detective are looking for the robber. And as they're talking about the robber, Phileas Fogg says, "No, I can travel." He says, because there are ships, and there are railways, and there are trains. This is a ship. This is a railway. It's what a train goes on. And this is a train. And this is a bank. A bank is where money is kept. A robber stole money from the bank. And this is why Phileas Fogg started talking about traveling. Now, Phileas Fogg likes his life to be the same every day. Will his life continue to be the same every day? No, he will be traveling now for 80 days. And he will try to return before 80 days so that he does not need to give money to his friends. Let's read this purple box here on page 17. Did you know? The first steam engines began work in England 300 years ago. People used them to lift water out of deep mines. Engines for transport came about 100 years later. The famous rocket won a competition in 1829 with a speed of 58 kilometers per hour. And this was the start of fast land transport. Steam engines and ships soon followed. Ships could now travel fast and did not have to wait for wind from the right direction to push them along. These changes made the world a much smaller place in the 19th century. For the first time, people could think of a journey around the world in only 80 days. So this is talking all about ships and trains. So we know that this story is happening in the 1800s. So now there are ships and trains. There are no airplanes, but they can now travel around the world faster than they could before. So I hope you look forward to reading more of this story. At the end of each unit, there is another episode. Read episode 1 to yourself and practice reading the words, listening as I read, repeating after me. This story is important for you to understand. And you can also take a look here. This is their plan to get around the world in 80 days. They will go from London to Suez, from Suez to Bombay, from Bombay to Calcutta, India by train, from Calcutta to Hong Kong, from Hong Kong to Yokohama, from Yokohama to San Francisco, from San Francisco to New York, from New York to London. So he has a plan, how many days from each city to each city, and he thinks he can do it in 80 days. Do you think he can? We will find out as we continue reading. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you all have a good rest of your week. Goodbye, everyone.